Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. I'm your host, John June. Got my guy, Greg Penniman. Greg, what's good, man?
What is good? Just moments away from this Giants-Washington game. Talking about it off air. Something's got to give. Giants have been 0-6 on Thursday Night Football in the last couple games for those, people that bet out there. Thursday Night Football, a little extra stat. But I think Daniel Jones is undefeated in his career against Washington. So, yeah, we see something's got to give.
Something's got to give. If you're listening to this now, the outcome of the game probably will have already happened. So you already know what gave, or maybe it didn't. Maybe it ended in a tie. Who knows?
Oh, that's true.
So as we record this Thursday night, episode 187, our week 2 game previews part 1. We're covering 9 games today, all Sunday 1 p.m. games, and then tomorrow's episode, the one that will release on Saturday, we'll break down the remaining 6 starts of the week and play some get money. So make sure you're on the lookout for that on Saturday morning. But today we're on to week 2, and we're going to help your fantasy teams thrive this week. And if you want some extra action other than fantasy matchups, then there's another way to do that, Greg. Tell the people about that.
You already know. If you want to do that, you got to be thriving. We're going to be thriving all weekend, and that's the way to do it on Thrive Fantasy. Again, come prop up on Thrive Fantasy this football season. The new users, you could deposit $20 and get a free ticket to Thursday's $15,000 NFL contest and a free ticket to Sunday's $50,000 NFL contest.
What is Thrive Fantasy?
$50K, yo, $50K.
Oh, man.
Thrive Fantasy is a daily sports app and fantasy esports app for player props. With Thrive, you can eliminate the countless hours of research and focus on the top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. You choose 10 out of 20 available player props to build your lineup. Each prop is assigned a fantasy value for both the over and the under based on how likely it is to hit. Hit the most props and rack up the most points to win a share of the prize pool. So just got to hit into that promo code FFDX, and you get to use that special offer today. Come up on www.thrivefantasy.com. Sign up and prop up today.
FFDX. How do I spell that, Greg?
FFDX.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. Hey, man, let's get into these 1 p.m. games. Again, Sunday 1 p.m. games is what we're covering today. Starting with, I'm glad we're starting with the Raiders, man, because we get to talk about this Monday night game a little bit, which was wild, absolutely obscene game, crazy game. Just to catch y'all up, I ended up winning. It was crazy. I won that beat shift. But Greg lost, unfortunately for Greg.
Sorry, I knew coming in, I was facing the regular season god, so it's all good.
Yeah, Rob Pike in our fantasy league as Greg mentioned, the regular season god. He always, for whatever reason, is in top 2 in the standings for the regular season.
Not no top 3, top 2 every year.
Top 2 every year. So, got to find a way to dethrone Rob from that top 2. But we'll see what happens, man. But moving on to these Raiders and these Steelers. 1-0 Las Vegas Raiders traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the 1-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. Is a 47-point total. The Steelers are 5.5-point favorites here, Greg. No weather concerns, but in terms of injuries, Pittsburgh's okay. But Josh Jacobs for the Raiders dealing with a toe and an ankle. He suffered. That was the same injury he was dealing with going into Monday night's game. Seems to me that he'll played in that game on Monday, scored, I believe it was 2 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So, Greg, where are you at with this game? What are you taking in terms of the spread, the total, and who are you picking to win?
So I'm taking the over in this game. I'm taking the Las Vegas Raiders to cover. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Steelers to win though. Yep, on the Raiders side, Derek Carr, I think again he's two quarterback leave option, but definitely a solid start. I mean, solid stream, like quarterback 17 to 20 range, I think. Josh Jacobs, he was definitely banged up at the end of that Monday night game. Got to definitely monitor his status. He did miss back-to-back practice, but he seems to play through a lot of injuries in his early career. Definitely have Kenyon Drake ready. He was involved even with Josh Jacobs healthy. He had 6 carries, 5 receptions in week 1, played in 48% of the snaps in a competitive game. So he'll be, I think, automatic RB2 if Jacobs is out. But definitely is still a flex option right now, low in flex right now with against this defense that probably will need his pass catching abilities. As far as the receiving, it's just so disappointing that it's just still Darren Waller, and then after that is Darren Waller, and then after that is more Darren Waller. It's crazy. 19 targets in week 1. It's great to see for Darren Waller managers. That's why you drafted him in the second round, third round, maybe it's even first round. This guy is a wide receiver playing tight end, so you expect him to continue to see him dog at that position. I think Hunter Renfrow does have a great matchup. I think he is for PPR leagues in that flex conversation, but I'm not trusting any of the outside guys. And for Pittsburgh, Big Ben, he's my stream of the week, so I think he and this offense will bounce back against the Raiders defense that the Ravens were able to take advantage of both on the ground and in the air. Najee Harris, low in RB1, he got 17 touches in week 1. Love that number. You like to expect even more in this matchup. And Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, I think, are both low on wide receiver 2s. I think Deontay is more of favorable in the PPR leagues. He did get 10 targets in that week 1. Probably believe in those targets. You're banking on Chase Claypool's boom and getting those touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm taking the over here. Gonna take Pittsburgh to cover, Pittsburgh to win. Just picking Pittsburgh to cover this 5.5 points because Vegas, West Coast team traveling east, played in an overtime game on Monday night. So just doing some thinking there. But for terms of fantasy here, Pittsburgh, I wasn't in love with their offense last week outside of Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris. I'm more into it this week. Deontay, I think, continues to be a safe wide receiver 2, had over a 30% target share last week on 10 targets. So just pretty much picking up where he left off last year. Najee Harris, I think, is going to bounce back in a major way this week here. I mean, all the peripherals were really good last week. Like you said, 17 carries, saw 90% of the team running back opportunities. I think that, he's definitely in play to have a very good game here. And then, so I'm not overreacting over week 1, but why does this always happen to my breakout running backs? Like, there's always some, is it because they're rookies? Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, Claypool, I think him and Juju both safe. They're both wide receiver 3s. Claypool has that boom upside, obviously, that can put him in the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 conversation. Juju's that's that safe floor play, but Big Ben is your stream of the week here. So I think that, this offense is, again, in a good spot here to potentially have put up some fantasy points. And then for Vegas, I'm with you. I'm in Darren Waller, who we did say, by the way, if you're taking Travis Kelce with the number 1 pick or with a first round pick, you should feel comfortable taking Darren Waller with a first round pick. Hunter Renfrow, like you mentioned, I think the Steelers, they tend to struggle against slot receivers, so Hunter Renfrow definitely makes sense here. Not into, Josh Jacobs, obviously you can play him as the touchdown dependent RB2, but I'm not into Vegas outside of those 2 guys or three guys.
Word.
All right, moving on to the next matchup. Again, all Sunday 1 p.m. games here, but the Cincinnati Bengals, 1-0 Cincinnati Bengals, traveling to Chicago to take on Andy Dalton in a revenge game, the 0-1 Chicago Bears. This is a 45-point total. The Bears are 3-point favorites. Weather's okay. Cincinnati, in terms of injuries, they added safety Ricardo Allen to the injured reserve. Trey Waynes for Cincinnati is doubtful for this game. Missed week 1, so we know how huge he is to the Bengals secondary. Free agent signing. Chicago is just okay in terms of injury. They got some guys, but they're mainly okay in terms of the injury front. I am going to take the over here. I am going to take Cincinnati to cover. I am going to take Cincinnati to win this game. I think I like this game a lot from a fantasy perspective. I'm into the whole Cincy offense basically. Joe Burrow is a QB1. Joe Mixon's an RB1 again. Jamar Chase, who showed up big time last week, apparently catching NFL balls in a game that matters is not a problem for him. And then T. Higgins, him and Jamar Chase, both wide receiver ones potentially in this one. Tyler Boyd is a wide receiver 3 with the wide receiver 2 upside. And then on Chicago's side, I like Allen Robinson to bounce back this week and finish as a wide receiver 1 potentially. David Montgomery, see him as a high-end wide receiver, high-end running back 2. Looked really good on Sunday night. Showed good explosion, good quickness. He looked phenomenal. So I'd expect him to continue. And then Darnell Mooney, I like him as a wide receiver 3 potentially. So with all that, I think that Andy Dalton is playable in a revenge game here as a potential streaming option quarterback 2 in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over. I'm taking the Bengals to cover and the Bengals to win. Set up to be definitely another nice day. I agree with you with this offense, both sides, in running in the passing game on Cincy side. You love Joe Burrow, has that QB1 upside. Their secondary is very shaky. You gotta love the reason to love Boyd. I mean, the reason why I chose Cooper Kupp was against this Bears slot receivers. Slot secondary. So definitely a bump for Boyd, and Chase and Higgins are going to be great in this game. Just hope that the Cincinnati Bengals are able to keep this like kind of passing volume, because Joe Mixon had a lot of work last week, and Joe Burrow only threw 27 times. So going down the line, one of the top. All 3 of these guys can't finish in the top 25 with this passing volume being not as high as last year. When Chicago,
and that was that was in overtime too.
Yeah, that was in overtime too. Yeah. So definitely keep an eye on that. And so Chicago side, I agree with you. David Montgomery, he's got that RB1 upside. He's a higher in RB2. Definitely look for the bounce back from these receivers. Easier matchup. Thielen, Thielen cooked up Eli Apple. Look for them to get that matchup and expose that. And I'm just only intrigued anytime I watch Chicago Bears game, when is Justin Fields going to come in the game, man.
That's really it, man. I'm eyeing Detroit in week 4. I think that's a really good week, Matt. Matt Nagy, if you're interested, we can consult for you. Detroit's a pretty bad defense. So if you want to make Justin Fields look good, then you should do it then. But I feel like there was something I wanted to add to this game. Oh, T. Higgins switched his jersey number to number 5.
The entire last Sunday, I was just like, "Who's that? Who's that?" Like the entire time, I don't know. I didn't know numbers before, and now I definitely don't know any of the numbers since everyone changed their number. And so, it's just waiting for the broadcasters. So they gotta be quick on that.
Oh man. Let's move on to this next game. The 1-0 Houston Texans are traveling to Cleveland to take on the 0-1 Cleveland Browns. 48.5 point total. 12.5 point favorites are the Cleveland Browns. For mathematicians at home, Cleveland Browns have an implied total of 31. Houston Texans 18. Houston has some injuries on defense. On offense, tight end Pharaoh Brown, who played really well last week, seems to be is questionable with a shoulder and ankle. Then for Cleveland, Odell Beckham Jr. is out with a knee. It's 2 weeks in a row now. I don't know what's happening because there's videos of him running around at practice.
Bro, I thought on Instagram he's running around like I don't know, man. There's something.
Seems like a trade. I don't know. I have no idea what's happening
Crazy.
there. But Anthony Schwartz, who seemed to be Odell's replacement last week, he's questionable with a knee. Jedrick Willis, the left tackle for the Cleveland Browns, he's questionable with an ankle. Greg, where are you at with this game?
I'm gonna take the Under. I'm gonna take the Houston Texans to cover, but I'm gonna take the Browns to win. But I think the Browns do win by like 2 possessions, so 10, maybe 11. So Houston, I'm not really relying on any piece. I'm Cleveland Browns is a good, like, nice little defense if you want to pick up this week. I definitely did that in League of Extraordinary People to hopefully get a lot of points. Not really relying on Houston Texans offensively, except for Brandon Cooks. He's in flex consideration. He got like this target number last week. He got 7. That was in a commanding win, so the game script should be more favorable for him. He might get a little more than that. So I think he's in that wide receiver 3 range. On the Cleveland side, though, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, RB1 upside for both of them. Chubb, of course, ranked a little higher than usual. As usual, he's going to get touchdowns upside. Jarvis Landry, I think he's high in wide receiver 3. Definitely like the matchups for the complementary receivers now that Adele is out, especially if Anthony Schwartz can't go. Thomas People-Jones gets a big bump. I think one of those guys, if they both play, can see a touchdown and get a good opportunity. Schwartz got 7 targets last week, but Thomas People-Jones play 80% of the snaps. So both these guys are definitely involved. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, man, I'm going to take the under here. Going to take Cleveland to cover, Cleveland to win. 12.5 points was a lot, and I was like, this is a lot of points. But I remember thinking last week Houston was bad. And I remember coming to last week thinking that Jacksonville wasn't good enough to cover against Houston. And now I'm of the frame of mind of I don't think Jacksonville is good enough at all. I just don't think they're good.
Right.
And so I think that last week is just more of a reflection of how bad Jacksonville is and less of a reflection of how competitive Houston will be this year. And so if Cleveland is a playoff team, like we think they're a playoff team, you should beat the Houston Texans by 2 touchdowns or more. I think Cleveland, like I said, I think they roll here. Give me both the running backs, Nick Chubb as an RB1, Kareem Hunt as that RB2 with that RB1 upside. David Njoku has some intrigue here. Saw 18% of the targets last week. I'm not starting him, but I'm definitely just paying attention, keeping an eye out. Like, hey, is this a trend? Does he see another 18% of the team targets? Like, we know this is a very heavy tight end offense. The tight end saw 36% of the team targets last week, 37% of the team targets. The wide receivers on this team saw somewhere about 39 to 40% of the team targets. So you're just as likely to get production from one of these tight ends as you are to get from one of these receivers. And David Njoku is a big athlete, big man, red zone presence. If he's getting 18% of the team targets, and that's a trend that continues, that's something I could be into. The wide receivers, because I want upside, I'm not really into Jarvis Landry this week. I don't think there's much of a need for them to try to stress it, to use him all that much. But I do like these auxiliary pieces like Anthony Schwartz and Donovan Peoples-Jones, like you said, as options to potentially get in the end zone this week on some deep passes, because both of these guys, especially Schwartz, had an ADOT over 20 yards, and so seems to be taking that Odell deep threat role that Odell was filling. And then for Houston, I'm with you, man. I'm just into Brandon Cooks. Like, I don't want Mark Ingram's 30 carries for less than 90 yards. Like, I'm not into that, bro. Like, Brandon Cooks and even him, that's like even a stretch, because yeah, I don't know. I'm not like Brandon Cooks is all I'd be willing to play on Houston. That's it. That's all. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next game, man. The 1-0 LA Rams traveling to Indianapolis to take on the 0-1 Indianapolis Colts. We have a 47.5 point total here. The Rams are 4-point favorites. I took the under here, and I'm going to stick by that. It looks a little weird to take the under here, but I'm going to stick by that. We got 2 solid defenses. Stafford in this Rams offense. Taking the under, taking the Rams to cover, Rams to win. Stafford in this Rams offense is going to be fun to watch, man. I mean, McVay is ready to cook some stuff up for him, and I'm sure he saw what his former offensive assistant Shane Waldron did with the Seahawks to these Colts last week. And so he's probably going to look to steal some of that. I have Stafford as a QB1 this week. Cooper Kupp dominated targets last week. Was that because of the matchup? I don't know, but I'm banking on. We've seen that happen in the past, and this is a new quarterback, so there's there's some different things to go off of, and apparently Matt Stafford talked about how him and Cooper Kupp are like BFFs, so maybe that continues. So Robert Woods, wide receiver 2 for me this week. I can't believe I'm going to say this 2 weeks in a row, man. Tyler Higbee is an option this week. Came through last week. The matchup was nice against Chicago, and so I think he comes through again this week against Indianapolis. And then Darrell Henderson handled all the work basically for the Rams backfield, 90% of the team opportunities. He's an RB2 for me this week. And then Van Jefferson is a deeper flex option.
Oh, you want to talk about JT and them Indy Colts?
Oh, snap. I didn't scroll down to my notes, man. For the Colts, absolutely love JT this week. Did you know Jonathan Taylor had a 24% target share last week?
Ooh, yeah, he did get a lot of receptions. I like that too. Even with Hines getting his work, so I think the running backs got a high target share.
Yeah, the running backs both had over 20% of the team targets.
Yeah,
but Jonathan Taylor getting 24%. That was higher. That was 3rd in the league this week. That's a really nice number for any running back, let alone one named Jonathan Taylor. So be on the lookout for that. If that trend continues, then or even comes close to continuing, then we're in for like a top 3 year potentially from JT. Naheem Hines, he's an RB3 with some RB2 upside. If this game goes nuts, then I'm definitely into him for sure. I'm in wait and see mode with Michael Pittman Jr. Didn't want to play Allen Robinson last week, and he wasn't great. Michael Pittman Jr. is not Allen Robinson, and so didn't play great last week. I wouldn't say they didn't play great, just didn't see the targets. The targets weren't there. Don't really know what that was about. Was that a game plan specific thing? Or did they feel like they could attack Seattle, with their running backs in the pass game? I'm not quite sure, but I'm basically going to put Michael Pittman on ice this week and just see what happens this week or next week, even potentially. But I think he's somebody that you don't have to hold on your roster. You can drop him to pick somebody else up just because he hasn't. I don't think a lot of people are going to be scrambling to go pick up Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the over. I'm taking the Colts to cover. I'm gonna take the Rams to win though. I do like this matchup for Stafford and the receivers. I think this one the most upside switches to Robert Woods. I think Indy got killed by those outside guys last week, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. So I like Robert Woods to have a slight edge this week. Darrell Henderson, great play, solid RB2 play. Talk about that opportunity share, which is awesome. And Tyler Higbee is a tight end to be in play. On Indy side, yeah, JT should keep eating. David Montgomery did have some big plays against his Rams last week, so that'd be good to see if JT makes some big plays this week. Hines, definitely solid flex consideration with those 9 carries and those 8 targets. It's kind of like, James White on steroids right there, so I like that for sure. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm not trusting any of those receivers. Can't really predict who's the alpha in this offense right now, and it's a bad matchup. It's just not one to go to.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to watch JT though.
Yes, sir. Always excited to watch JT.
Let's move on to this next one. Divisional matchup here. The 0-1 Buffalo Bills taking on the division leading 1-0 Miami Dolphins. This is a 47.5 point total. Dolphins are 3.5 point underdogs. In terms of injuries, Gabriel Davis for the Bills is questionable with an ankle. Will Fuller for the Dolphins is questionable with an undisclosed injury. Did not participate in practice today. Greg, where are you at with this matchup?
I'm taking the under. I'm taking the Dolphins to cover, but the Bills I'm going to take to win the game. It's going to be a nice, close, competitive AFC East game. I think the Bills edge it out, though. On Buffalo side, Josh Allen, QB1. I think he gets a lot of work on the ground and in the air. He bounces back. I mean, not that he had a bad week last week, but he's going to bump those numbers up, I think, to top QB1 numbers. Devin Singletary, he's into that top 30 value. I think he's, definitely if he's getting, that opportunity share like he did in week 1, had the 11 carries to Breeders 4, also had 5 targets too in the passing game. So that's great work for him. Diggs, matchup proof wide receiver 1 every week, one of the hardest work receivers in the league. Cole Beasley, another solid, steady receiver. I think is high in flex play, especially in those PPR leagues. He tied the team in league. Well, tied the team with targets with 13. With Stephon Diggs getting those 13 targets, it's a really good number. Sanders and Davis, I think, are both deeper league plays, dark plays. I think in this game they could be involved, especially Josh Allen pretty much throwing it a lot. The Bills really throw it a lot on first and second down. And on the Miami side, Miles Gasman. It's really hard to pick the receivers who's going to really dominate in this game. I'm not really interested. You got Trey White back there in the secondary, so I think they rely on the Gasman and Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over here. I'm going to take Buffalo to cover, Buffalo to win. Josh Allen, he's a bona fide QB1. Like you said, I think didn't have a great game last week. Bounces back in a big way this week potentially. His buddy Stephon Diggs, also a wide receiver 1 this week. Cole Beasley, like you were saying, I think he's a wide receiver. He's a definitely flex appeal wide receiver 3 with some definite wide receiver 2 upside. And then Devin Singletary, man, I can't believe we're sitting here talking about Devin Singletary.
Yes, sir.
But I think he's an RB2 this week, man. I mean, Zach Moss was a healthy scratch last week. Devin Singletary and Matt Breida were the two main backs for Buffalo. And like you said, Singletary was the lead guy, 73% of the opportunities, 14 total, or was it 15? 15 total opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Ran a route on 66% of the team pass plays, which was the 8th highest total in the league for running backs.
Wow.
And his 37 routes were the 3rd most of any running back in the league in week 1. So his usage was really good, and I think he could have a really, he could really break through in this game where Buffalo, should win. And like you were saying, with Josh Allen and the Bills, they throw the ball 65% of the time on first and second down in neutral game script. League average is 56% of the time.
Ooh, love it.
That was a top 5 number in week 1. Again, we talked about how this team doesn't want to run the ball. That's why we devalued the running back position. But if they're not going to run the ball, but only have one running back, that makes it a little bit easier, especially if the running back's involved in the pass game, which Singletary was. So, I'm curious to see what happens with Zach Moss, but Singletary could very well be a nice buy low option right now if people, are sleeping on him potentially. And then for the Miami side, I'm kind of with you, man. I want Myles Gaskin for the running back position. I am going to play Jalen Waddle, though.
Okay.
He did come through last week. He played really well as well, just in the game, and his numbers was second on the team in targets. Was used, they drew up a play for him around the goal line to get him in the end zone. So, he's somebody that is going to get plays manufactured for him. And in a game like this one, where Buffalo should be leading, I think Jalen Waddle definitely could provide some value here, and definitely come through. All right, moving on to the next matchup, man. We've got the 0-1 New England Patriots traveling to MetLife Stadium to take on the 0-1 New York Jets. 42.5-point total. Patriots are now, I think they're 5.5-point favorites. No,
yeah,
they're 6-point favorites.
6. Yeah, they're 6-point favorites.
Yeah, they're 6-point favorites. That line moved. It started at 3.5, shifted all the way to 6. Weather's going to be okay. In terms of injuries, New England Patriots are okay. The Jets will be without left tackle Mekhi Becton, who was added to the injured reserve with a knee injury. Should be back maybe mid-season, but we'll see. Jamison Crowder and Keelan Cole, they both make their return to practice after being out last week. Crowder with COVID, Keelan Cole with the knee. Your boy will be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was like, you gonna be there, right?
I will be there.
Yo, Justin from work too is gonna be there too. Yo, we got people pulling up.
Yo, boots on the ground. We're doing that real, like, legit fantasy analysis in person, doing all of it. So I'm gonna take the under. Gonna take the Jets to cover 6 because at 3.5, I was like, oh yeah, New England has that. But once I saw it at 6, I'm like, okay, hold up. This ain't Tom Brady here. So in terms of the matchup, Damien Harris is a high-end RB2 this week, like high-end, like borderline RB1. James White, high-end RB3 with some RB2 upside here, especially in these PPR leagues. And then I'm not interested in the quarterbacks outside of watching them or potentially starting them in 2 quarterback leagues. I mean, both of them, they both had their moments last week. Mac Jones for the Patriots looked good against Miami. Zach Wilson looked good at times against Carolina, especially in that second half. And so excited to watch them, but not excited to play them. The wide receivers in this one are less than encouraging. Corey Davis came through last week, but I think this week he's more of a volume dependent, wide receiver 3 potentially with some wide receiver 2 upside. Nelson Aguilar has an opportunity here to make some plays downfield. So he's a wide receiver 3 with some upside there. And then Jacoby Myers led the New England Patriots in targets, 25% of the team targets. I think he has an opportunity here, but again, I'm not in love with this pass game, so I don't know how much upside he'll bring. But then in terms of the tight ends, the Jets don't have one that you can really play. The New England Patriots, they have 2 that you can definitely play. And neither one of them really scored a touchdown last week, so I think that there's a possibility that could happen this week.
Yeah,
I would prefer John.
Over. Yeah, I'm going to take the over. I'm take the Jets to cover and the Patriots to win. On the New England side, yeah, Mac Jones, both quarterbacks. I agree with you. 2 quarterback options. I was very confident in that running back situation. Damien Harris almost he fumbled the ball at the end of the game. I'm hoping that, he's out the doghouse, but, I'm assuming he is because Stevenson also fumbled the ball too. So Damien Harris is their best option. He did work. He was very productive. He got the volume. So I'm confident that he's going to be a good RB2 option in this one. I'm also confident that James White has some top 30 value in this one at this position with the usage and the receptions that he's going to get. Nelson Aguilar, I think, is a solid wide receiver 3. Got some low-end wide receiver 2 upside. Hunter Henry and Jono, I'm more of the Jono guy. You're hoping that one of them is going to get a touchdown. It's really they're tied in 2 options for me, though, both of them. And on the Jets side, Corey Davis off that great week last week, I think you still got to consider him low-end, wide receiver 2. Just for the volume he's going to get, and Crowder, he's back in there, so I think is a safe, low end flex option, especially in PPR leagues.
Yeah, that's probably the guy I'm overlooking, right? Is Crowder, because I think he could probably have an impact in this game, especially in PPR leagues. Zach Wilson was under a lot of pressure last week against Carolina. New England's going to see that and try to replicate that pressure, and I think the difference will be Jamison Crowder will be available this week to catch like 9 balls for 64. So.
Yeah, facts. Yep.
All right, let's move on to this next matchup, man. And we got the 1-0 San Francisco 49ers traveling to Philly to take on the 1-0 Philadelphia Eagles. 50.5-point total. San Francisco 49ers are 3.5-point favorites. Greg, what do you got?
I'm taking the under here. I'm taking the Eagles to cover, but I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers to win. It's going to be a very entertaining game. It's going to be a good one. So on, the San Francisco side, I like Eli Mitchell. I think he's a high-end RB2 option. I think he will start off with the volume. I know they'll definitely mix in Hasty. They'll mix in Trey Sermon if they activate him. But I think Eli Mitchell will get the bulk of the carries. Deebo Samuel, wide receiver 2 option, especially a slight bump, especially if Ayuk can't go again or is not fully healthy to the team. He's back at practice. He was a full participant today. But, I think you want to be in wait-and-see mode to see that the 49ers are trusting him to be on the field health-wise because he did only play about, I think, under 30 snaps last week. Kittle, top 5 option. That should definitely get more targets in this competitive game script. They didn't really need him much, in that second, third quarter. So it did hurt him, but Kittle should be a top 5 option. On Philly's side, it's Jalen Hurts' season continues. The QB1 season continues, no matter what. You're gonna love the reason why you drafted him. He's gonna just keep going with his legs in the air. Miles Sanders high in RB2 in this matchup. Kenneth Gainwell, I think, has some deep league flex option. Along with Jalen Reagor, he's good in some deep leagues. Also, I think some wide receiver 3 upside. Devonta Smith, I'm very proud of what happened. He's a wide receiver 2 for me. Led the team with the 8 targets. Led all wide receiver, running backs, and tight ends in snaps. He was basically an old lineman out there. So, definitely a trusted rookie that will, he'll be trending up every week. And Dallas Goedert, tight end 1 for me. Ertz is trending in that, not trending in the right direction. I think they're kind of separating a little bit. Not too many mouths to feed with this offense with Reagor and Miles Sanders, even Quez Watkins getting targets. So it's going to be a very slow season for Ertz.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this game is so interesting, man. I think my immediate reaction after week 1 was to Philadelphia to cover Philadelphia to win. But then I had to sit back and I'm like, Atlanta wasn't that great, man.
Atlanta's not that good.
Atlanta's not that good. So I had to pull it back a little bit. I do like what you did with the 3.5 point cover, but San Fran to win because I feel like it will be a close game to that point. I am, however, going to take the over. I am going to take San Fran to cover. I am going to take San Fran to win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not anticipating the explosion that we saw from Hurts last week. The matchup's not as great, but like you were saying, you're playing him this week. The legs that with his legs, he has a safe floor and an opportunity to just fall into a QB1 finish, and that's why we drafted him, and that's why we were willing to take him when we did, despite all the concerns about his passing. Miles Sanders, high-end running back 2 this week with RB1 upside potentially. Kenneth Gainwell, an RB3 that I think you can look to flex potentially as well. And then Devonta Smith, man, like you were saying, he is a running back 2, man. He's got to be absolutely, man, a wide receiver. Did I say running back 2?
He did. It's all good.
It's all good. He's got to be a wide receiver 2 here. Seems to, be the favorite of Hurts. Goddard is probably the guy that I want to play here, but between the tight ends. But I don't think Reagor is definitely intriguing with the potential game script. I think you can get away with playing him. And then for San Francisco, Deebo Samuel is coming off a big game. Should be a wide receiver 2 this week. I'm with you. I'm not starting Ayuk this week. I'm kind of just in wait and see mode. I'm not going to cut him. I'm not dropping him, but he's just going to sit on my bench, and I'm just going to wait and see, all right, when do you earn Kyle Shanahan's trust? Because this is a guy that averaged 17 PPR points last year, was the wide receiver 15, I think, in PPR points per game. Like, this guy's not a guy that can't play. So as soon as, he's healthy and he's 100%, I'm sure he'll get worked into the offense again. George Kittle, a tight end 1 this week, of course. I don't think you could play Jimmy G with Trey Lance, see any opportunities that he's seeing. I mean, we saw Trey Lance throw a touchdown pass.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I don't think you could play Jimmy G. But Elijah Mitchell, I think you could totally play. One of the guys that we're talking about scooping up off waivers. I mean, everyone's talking about him. I saw him go for 100% of fab in some leagues. So if you're going to spend that much fab on him, you better be playing him. But I think either way, the matchup is nice here. Elijah Mitchell should be in your lineups. And that's about it, man.
Yeah, definitely. This will be one of the sneaky great games of the weekend.
Yeah, let's move on to this next matchup, man. We've got the 1-0 New Orleans Saints traveling to Carolina to take on the 1-0 Carolina Panthers. This game has a 44.5 point total. The New Orleans Saints are 3.5 point favorites. In terms of injuries here, the Saints center Eric McCoy, he's out or he's doubtful with a calf. Marshawn Lattimore is cornerback for the Saints. He's doubtful with a thumb injury. Don't think either one of those guys are going to play. Carolina, in terms of injuries, they're going to be okay. But for me in this game, I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to steal a page out of your book. Go Carolina to cover the 3.5.
Okay.
But I will take New Orleans to win. NFC South game. I feel like these games are always 3-point games between the Panthers and the Saints. CMC obviously needs to be in the lineup. DJ Moore, after 1 week, seems to be the guy for Darnold. Did lead the Panthers wide receivers in targets. But again, it's just 1 week, so I don't want to overreact to that too much. Robbie Anderson, though, someone I'm not confident in after 1 week, only saw 1 target. Granted, it was a 57-yard touchdown. If you're going to have 1 target, it's not a bad target to have. But I don't know how bankable that will be this coming week. So something to monitor. Not playing Sam Darnold this week. Don't love the matchup. We saw what they did to Aaron Rodgers, and I love Sam Darnold just as much as nobody else. But I don't think that he can muster up more than what Aaron Rodgers did last week. But for the New Orleans side, Alvin Kamara obviously needs to be in your lineup. Saw 20 rush attempts last week. I've been alluding to what it could be without Michael Thomas, and we kind of got it right away. Just make sure you have Tony Jones ready,
yes,
locked and loaded, because we know what happened. Alvin Kamara can only handle so much 20 touch weeks.
He's a 60% guy, man, always.
So, definitely have Tony Jones stashed on your bench. I like Marquez Callaway as a wide receiver 3. I think he can bounce back this week. Won't see Jair Alexander this week, and so I think he can definitely have a bounce back game. Jameis Winston had a nice game last week. Zach Wilson also had a pretty decent day against the secondary. I don't think that the Jets. I don't think the Saints will be trailing as much as the Jets were last week, which caused them to really throw the ball as much as they did. But I think, Jameis Winston can have success against the Carolina Panthers. But, maybe low-end QB2, probably somewhere that's where mid-range QB2 is probably where I'd put him.
For me, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the Saints to cover, and I'm going to take the Saints to win. I think the Saints do, dominate this game, stirrup and control. I think the famous Jameis Sleeper of the Year, takeover continues. I think he's high in QB2. I think he's playable. Kamara is a top 3 option at his position. Get to see Kamara versus CMC. That's a pretty good storyline right there. That's going to be pretty dope. Definitely hard to call which one of these pass catchers will have a top 30 day. Troutman, he led the team in targets last week. So I think he is a tight end 2 option. With Jawan Johnson, if you want to take a flyer on him as well, with that wide receiver tight end, position. And I think Deontay Harris could be a deep league DFS, dart play. They can get down the field against the secondary and get maybe a deep ball, a deep play. Sam Darnold on the Carolina side, I think at best he's a 2 QB league option, but I'm not really playing him in that either. In CMC, we trust he's the number 1 option at his position. Number 1 option like in fantasy every week. And the receivers, DJ Moore, wide receiver 2. That the 1 target was an alarming number. You definitely don't want to overreact because he did have he played with him before, has rapport, had really good season last year. So, but it's definitely wait and see more for Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. All right, let's move on to this final matchup here. The final 1 p.m. game we'll be covering today. The 1-0 Denver Broncos traveling to Jacksonville to take on the 0-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. This game has a 45.5 point total. The Broncos are 6-point favorites. This game's expected to have a decent amount of rain, so be on the lookout for that for sure. Jerry Jeudy, in terms of injuries for the Broncos, it landed on IR, as did Ronald Darby. Jerry Jeudy won't be out the whole season, be out some of the time, 4 to 6 weeks, I think the timetable was. Jacksonville's okay in terms of injuries. Greg, where are you in terms of this matchup here?
I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the Broncos to cover and the Broncos to win. Based off what happened last week, Jacksonville, I think they're going to get handled well from Denver and their line. Hopefully get pressure. Hopefully Bradley Chubb can come back and help out that line too. On Denver side, Teddy Two Glove, I think he's a great streaming option. Melvin Gordon, he's an RB2. Was able to expose that Giants rush defense last week. He had a great game. think Cortland Sutton gets the bump back up as a top 30 play with a much easier matchup and the opening up of targets with the injury of Judy. Also helping out Noah Fant as a low-end tight end one. And KJ Hamler has a great matchup. I think this also helps him as well. I think he is a wide receiver 3 option this week. And on Jacksonville's side, if Trevor Lawrence is going to get that passing volume of 51 pass attempts, he won't get the 51 again, but on average, but that's a high number. You like that as for fantasy, so I think he is a option. That low end, high end QB2 range. DJ Shark and Jones both benefit from this and trending in the right direction as wide receiver 2s. DJ Shark had 12 targets last week, only 3 catches, so you're hoping that catch rate should improve. Jones should be a good wide receiver 2 flex option as well. And Vishka is also an option too. He was able to get in those PPR flex leagues, deeper leagues. The passing volume should be high, especially if they're down. It's because James Robinson, Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde got the bulk of the carries, but they weren't really running the ball last week. Surprising to see that James Robinson volume just plummet down like that last week.
Yeah, man, that definitely was discouraging. But I'm going to take the under here. I'm going to take Denver to cover, Denver to win. I've kind of alluded to. I started out this offseason like, oh, why is everyone so down on Urban Meyer? I think he'll be great for Jacksonville. Yada, yada, yada. And then I've just progressively seen some of the moves that Jacksonville's made. And I kind of talked about it last week, and we talked about Jacksonville and the Houston game. Like some of those decisions, they just lead me to believe that Jacksonville is like focused on the wrong stuff, or their process is not great. And if the process isn't great, that's going to lead to you getting blown out by the Houston Texans, who are an actual NFL organization. And while they may not be talented, they still go about business and they still work as an NFL team. And I don't think Jacksonville is necessarily doing that right now. So I can't pick Jacksonville to cover. Starting with Denver, Teddy Bridgewater, he's my stream of the week. Like I said, there's supposed to be some rain in this game, so I'm pulling off of him a little bit here as my stream. I would probably go Andy Dalton ahead of Teddy Bridgewater. Just kind of give the people there my thoughts. But Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, both, I think they make great plays this week, in my opinion. If Denver wins, it's going to be because, obviously you include the ground game. If they're winning big, they're going to be, handing the ball off to these running backs. So I think you can play both of them as low-end RB2s, especially if there's rain in this game. I think they lean on that ground game some more. Noah Fant has to get a major bump up without Judy. He's a top option at the tight end position this week. He was great in week 1, and like I said, the opportunity should be there for him. Cortland Sutton, he's in my lineups this week, man. I'm curious to see who benefits from the Judy injury, but I think Cortland Sutton is going to eat. He's going to return to that alpha level. I think he has to. He's expert consensus rankings he's a wide receiver 36, I think, or wide receiver 32. I don't know. Either way, he's a wide receiver 2 at worst for me this week. Curious to see who benefits from the Judy injury, like I was saying. KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick. I think both of them have the opportunity to absorb some of these targets. Both good players. KJ Hamler has a ton of upside, though, so I'm definitely peeking his way. But don't sleep on the vet and Tim Patrick. And then for the Jacksonville side, I'm on Trevor Lawrence purely as a volume play. Like you were saying, if they're going to be losing, pass attempts should be there. We know Trevor Lawrence. He didn't run a lot last week. I don't think he really ran at all. 1 rush attempt, I believe. But I think if we can get that going, that would be nice. Again, Jacksonville, you get Trevor Lawrence, who can run, but you don't run him. Either way, DJ Shark. I misspoke last time. I said Marvin Jones led in targets. It was DJ Shark with 12. So like you were saying, 33% catch rate. That's got to get better. DJ Shark is not a bum playing wide receiver. He's going to catch more than 33% of his passes. Laviska Shenault, Marvin Jones, they were all involved. So I think all these guys fall in line as wide receiver 2s. Obviously, we know it's like a real cheap version of what we have in Tampa.
Oh, it's in Tampa. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like
that.
just real cheap, like
Yeah.
real discount version.
For sure. For sure.
You just got to go to the other side of Florida. But James O'Shaughnessy, he's a deep play at tight end. Saw 16% of the targets last week. So I think that he has maybe some DFS intrigue. I feel like I bring up James O'Shaughnessy like once every like 18 months. It's so weird, but I feel like he's a decent option this week as a deep play. But that being said, we're done breaking down the 1 p.m. games.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you are here tomorrow or Saturday. We'll just say Saturday for part 2. We'll break down the remaining 6 games. We also give out our starts for the week, and we'll play some Get Money. So make sure you're around for that. And good luck this week. And we'll see y'all on Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Have a good one, everybody. We're out of here. Peace.